I first got the idea for this when I saw some old Magic Eye valves, and I thought it'd be pretty funny to have a guitar amp head in the shape of a head with glowing green eyes and valves for teeth. I didn't really have any idea how I could do it, but I did some dumb sketches and let the idea float around for a few years. Eventually I bought an amp kit from Tube Town here in Germany, and then at least I had the components, so I figured out how big it needed to be. Then I made a form out of polystyrene and cardboard, covered it in clay, and started to sculpt. The Medusa thing kind of came to life on its own gradually, and eventually after a week or so of messing around, I ended up with something which felt like it could work. So then I ordered a whole load of materials from Easy Composites in England, because I couldn't understand any of the chemical names on the German websites, and I covered the whole thing in silicone, which was pretty scary, to make the mould, hoping it would work out. Then I made the plaster shell to keep the shape, again, which was a bit of a mission. I ended up needing to get some help with that. And then I moved on to the resins, which again, I had no idea what I was doing, but I did quite a bit of reading on YouTube and stuff, and basically you take, it's called cold casting. You take a whole load of metal powder and you mix it with some resin. In this case it was polyurethane, and then you end up with a kind of solid metal surface which you can buff up with steel wool. So I did a few tests and stuff. I realised in the end that I didn't even have enough copper, so I just dumped it all in, and I brushed the inside of the mould with copper dust to try and get as much as possible onto the surface. I dyed the resin brown, a little bit brown, because it sets white, so I wanted it to be as kind of copper coloured as possible. Mixed it all in, got everything ready, said my prayers, and then mixed in the second part of the resin, which meant I had 5 minutes until the whole thing solidified. So basically just pour it in, swish it around, and hope that you get an even coat. It seemed to go okay, not too messy. I then did a whole load more coats, I think 5 in total. Each one I did a different colour so that I could make sure that I'd covered evenly the inside. It really, in the end, it started to look like the inside of a human head, which was kind of a little bit gruesome. Yeah, and look, you can see it hardens really fast, and it gets really hot as well. It's pretty crazy stuff. Wow, look at that. Well, in the end, it was time to take it out of the mould, which was a bit scary as well, but it seemed to be okay. It was definitely difficult getting it out. It had all gone super tight, and I had coated the outside of the silicone with Vaseline, which definitely made it easier. There's tons of stuff on YouTube about how to do this, but if anyone wants to know, then you can ask me in the comments below, and I can write something down for you. Pulling it out of the mould was again a bit of a hairy task, but it all came out in one piece, and yeah, kind of like some sort of alien birth. And there it was. Finally had the copper helmet, so I buffed it up with some steel wool, and then I gave it some washes of black and brown and green acrylic with water, just to kind of weather it a little bit. Then I cut out the mouth and the top of the head and any other bits like the jack holes in the ears and stuff, using my little German Dremel wannabe called Proxon, which was so fantastic, such a handy tool. It's really changed my life, actually. Just a beautiful little thing. You can do anything with it. Here I am, opening up the eyes, And I had to kind of shape them from the back as well, so that they would fit the valves as they poked through. I needed to cut an access panel in the back of the head, which I didn't have a little saw, so I made one out of a jigsaw blade and some more resin, and it actually worked really good. It's a really cool little saw. Yeah, no problem. And once that was open, then you could really see inside, and kind of looked even freakier actually. Then I started making the chassis, which I cut out of a sheet of aluminium. Figured it all out first. I think I made a cardboard mock-up and then cut it out of aluminium. Scored the fold lines and then clamped it onto my desk with a piece of angle steel to mark the fold. And it was actually not so difficult. It looks a bit dodgy on here. I'm amazed I didn't cut my hand, but it was actually pretty easy. Then I cut out all the holes for the transformers and the valves. Again, using my little Proxon tool thing. And there it was, the chassis. Kind of everything fitting, almost. There's the finished thing, all nice and shiny. It's really started to look like something. So I wanted all the snakes in the hair to have glowing red eyes. So because I had to fit them from the outside, I had to grind off the little skirt which sits on the bottom of the LEDs. And that really was a huge pain in the arse, actually, doing those LEDs. So this is the plate at the top of the head with the knobs on it, which originally I had the board hanging from underneath with all the components on, and these long wires running up and down the sides of the amp to connect it to the chassis. When we first tested the amp, it was kind of noisy, and it was decided that I should probably try and move all of the stuff from the board down into the chassis, which I did after that. So then I made this little board for the Magic Eye valves, which I just found a schematic online and just made a double board, and that kind of worked pretty good actually, first time. It was starting to come together, starting to look like something. By this stage my desk had become a total nightmare of stuff piled up. You can see there when I was putting all the components down into the chassis on the second try. There's the top where the knobs go. That's the jacks, the inputs. It all ended up being pretty neat. So finally I took it to be tested at my friend Jim Hickey's place, and we went through everything together, and yeah, a few little things to fix, but generally it was all pretty good. And finally it came to life. So then I built the cab out of birch ply with a Jensen speaker in it. Found some natty snakeskin vinyl online to line everything, and that was that. A nice carrying case for the head, which serves as a little stand, like a plinth.